Hi there, today I have a new project for you. So have you been wanting to sew with clear vinyl but are a little intimidated by the prospect of it? Well, in this video I've got you covered. I will be sharing with you tips and tricks, hold in your hand, because I know it can be scary when you're first starting out to tackle clear vinyl. I remember that as well. There are lots of vinyls to choose from, and that is probably one of the reasons why you are interested in sewing with clear vinyl, because there are a lot of pretty vinyls out there. They are a fun addition to sewing zipper pouches, bags, as well as different storage containers. I do have a lot of videos with storage containers using clear vinyl because I think it's perfect in the sewing room, because obviously you can see right through them and you can find your supplies. I also want to share with you what I'm using these for. Made one for vitamins, one for nail polish to keep them corralled so that I can find them easily. Made some notes. I created it with straight lines so you don't have to deal with the curves, zippers, or pockets, or even working with interfacing in fabrics. So it doesn't require a lot of supplies. You can use even scrap pieces of fabric for this project. I will be sharing with you the technique of how to combine vinyl and the fabric together, and some tips to make that easier, because frequently when you're combining different materials you get a lot of slippage. There is also a snap involved in this as the closure instead of a zipper. I'm going to show you how to use the cam snaps if you've never done that before. I will be walking along with you, and let's get started with the supplies. Two pieces of vinyl. You could use clear vinyl or a decorative type of vinyl with a print on it. You'll need some tissue paper, some double thick adhesive tape, some coordinating thread, a piece of fabric that you're going to need measuring 10 inches by 6 inches, cam snaps, clips, a rickrack is optional, a pen that will mark on your vinyl. I don't have anything special for the clear vinyl, it's just one of those pilot pens, precision pens. This Sharpie kind of wipes off pretty easily onto your fingers. Rivets, if you're going to use some rivets. The needles that I'm using today are Microtex Sharps. I find it helpful to use a Teflon foot, or you can just use your presser foot and put a little piece of Scotch tape on the bottom of it. A ruler, a lighter to singe your thread if you're using polyester thread. A seam ripper is always good to have when you are sewing. Some snips, a rotary cutter and ruler, scissors, an ironing board, your sewing machine, as well as a hairdryer is useful whenever you're working with clear vinyl so that you can turn it easier. So for the first step, you'll want to stack the two pieces or the two rectangles in a landscape direction. If you're using a decorative vinyl, you'll want to make sure that the right sides of the vinyl are facing each other. So you'll stack them together and clip them. If you're concerned about these clips leaving a divot, I always keep a little piece of paper available that I can, this is like cardstock, that I can just clip on like that, and that way I don't have to worry so much about leaving these divots. Alright, the next thing is just boxing the corners, and I boxed these 1 inch, so you get a depth of 2 inches. Okay, so I got a little ahead of myself and boxed the corners, but this will still work. What you want to do is go from the outside and just give yourself a guideline for where you're going to be sewing at a 1/4 inch down. So I'm going to come in about 1/4 of an inch and put a little mark there, because that's going to simulate where your stitching line is. And then also 1/4 of an inch right there to simulate the stitching line that's going to go across. Okay, so if you're going to do 1 inch in from that. So that's where I should have cut it. So it'd be 1 1/4 inch in from the right hand side and from the bottom. So then you'll put in a mark in 1 1/4 inches from each of the sides of the little envelope flat. Then you are going to remove the cardboard, and it's time to draw a line from this corner to the marking. You can also just go ahead, if you feel confident to just cut it with the rotary cutter. So I've gone ahead and changed my needle, oiled the machine, and I'm getting it ready. Grab a little tissue paper and lay it on the bed of the machine. I also like to pull up the bottom thread and hold my threads and really make sure that that foot's on all the way. If I hold them, then they're less likely to tangle, and then since this is visible, you'll quite frequently see the little nesting. I'm going to sew from where the front part is laying on top of the longer piece, and I'm going to back stitch and sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance with 3.5 millimeter stitch length, going all the way down and back stitching at the corner, then starting again, back stitching and going across 1/4 inch, and then going back up this way, back stitching and stopping at the top. I'm going to box the corners. I'm just trying to get rows of stitching to line up with butterfly, one seam going in one direction and one going in the other direction. So I'm just visualizing a straight line about a 1/4 inch in. You can put a second row of stitching in. I just use the inside as a guideline. You can also do that going down the sides before you start boxing it if you'd like. Then I just trim it straight. So you kind of get a tidier edge. And repeat for the other side. Now, whichever way the bottom is going, you want to keep it consistent in the way that you butterfly the seams so that it'll lay down properly or stand properly, I guess I should say. There's a box. Oh, what a beauty. I'm surprised my dogs didn't go crazy. You guys stick around and you might see a bear come through. Wouldn't that be fun? Okay, so it's time to warm it up with a hairdryer. I'm going to do that off camera so I don't bother your ears, and turn it right side out. Okay, so now that it's turned right side out, and I kind of shaped it a little bit with a hair dryer, you can kind of take a look and see if you need to take off some more of that corner. I think I will, to match this corner. I like the way that one looks. This one's still curling a little bit. So I'm going to carefully do this with the smallest of scissors. Okay, I think it's laying flat. So at this point, if you want to put in rivets, you can. Save these because you can use them for the zipper ends when you do your pouches. Okay, so next you're going to take it to the ironing board and you're going to fold it in half and press it, and then bring the raw edges in and press them again. That way when you're finished, you'll have that. Okay, so next I'm just going to mark 1/4 inch in from the edges. Right, so I'm going to take it and press the edges in and then press it in half and in half again. So I just took a piece of double-sided tape and put it on there. I'm going to take another piece, put it on the other side. And this part is where you want to try to get the edges lined up, because you can see that. And then if this comes untucked, it's okay. We can work on that. We'll make it look good on the edge when we take it to the sewing machine. You can decide to put the bric rack on the bottom if you'd like, underneath, and then you'll catch it with a top stitch. Or you could try to see what it would look like if you put it on top. I think I'm going to leave this one plain and just put 2 rows of top stitching, taking care to try to keep those as even as possible. This time I'm going to switch my foot back to the narrow foot, the narrow split foot. I like it for top stitching because you can get close to the edge. And I always like to have the top that is going to be visible for top stitching be on top, so that you get the pretty stitching on top. I'm just going to top stitch it by using the edge of the narrow foot. Okay, so now it's time to put the snap on, and I'm just going to put it in the middle. It's a little Amazon kit that I can snap. And so what we'll need are 2 caps. And this is the fun part, because look at all these yummy colors. Be sure to find something that will sort of match. And I'm going to choose this aqua color or turquoise. So you'll need 2 that point up like that. And then you'll need 1 that's a stud. So the way I do it when I was first starting is and if I don't use it very often, I'll just keep the little guide here so that I can remember how to do it. And then the socket one, so it's like the female and the male. Right, and then so when you're putting it through the hole, you just use your awl to make the hole. Oops. And so you'll grab this one and put it in. So it's like the pretty side or the good side. And then you'll have this socket part facing out so that it will snap with the stud. And you just kind of press it together. And then you want the white part of the cam, this part right here, to go and face the socket. So you want the little black ledge there to hold the pretty side or the exterior part, and you just want to make sure that you're keeping it centered so you don't get any divots. And you squeeze like the dickens. Sometimes you have to do it more than once. There's one. And so then when you get it to where you want it, I think right about there will do. So then you'll take your awl again. Just make sure that you're not punching through the plastic or the other side. And this time you want to make sure that this part, which is the stud, is facing up to where it'll meet the socket. So we'll have the nice cap on the inside this time. And again, you'll want the white part of the cam snap to go onto the socket part, or the stud part. And then the nice side of the cap sits on the little black well. And then you squeeze. Okay, so as an option, I put some hook and loop tape as a closure. Wanted to do a little experiment as an alternate to the snap. So if you don't have the little snaps, then you could use the hook and loop. And the hook and loop that I have was exactly the perfect width for the band. And so it's 3/4 inch hook and loop tape. And so I used a 3-inch length so that I would have a 2-inch allowance on either side. And so then I used a little tiny piece of 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape just to kind of stabilize it, because when you go in and open it up, if you have a free arm a sewing machine, that shouldn't be a problem, but you have to quite finagle it if you don't, and so you just kind of have to move it out gently out of the way to sew down the sides. So if you guys found this tutorial helpful and of benefit and would like to see more, please consider giving it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to my channel to see more videos that are useful for your everyday needs. And then this last one that is clear, I'm going to use for nail polishes. That way I can see the nail polishes that I have, along with my most recent purchase of this funky little color named Toned Down, a neutral little color. It's a little chipped, but I do like it. So have you been wanting to, seriously? Sammy,